And hello, welcome. We're a few minutes early. I just wanted to make sure everything worked, and I apologize. Let me see if I can, oops, sorry, if I can help everybody here on there. How's that? Hopefully it all works. And waving back, and we shall see. I'm going to wait another couple of minutes before we get going because I was able to get in a lot faster than I thought I would. So hang on, let me see if I can just sort you out a little bit. There, how's that? That light is really annoying, isn't it? Okay, so if I'm looking all over the place, it's because I have 3 different screens going, and I'm hoping for the best. That's all I can say. And let's see, what time is it? Another couple of minutes. Like I said, I didn't expect this to go as quickly as possible. You'll notice I'm not wearing my bow tie. There was a bit of a debate earlier today. It was a very small debating team, but it was a debate nonetheless about whether or not to wear the bow tie. And the decision was made that I would not. So no bow tie. If you want to see the bow ties, you're going to have to come out to Brews and Clues, which is starting again in September at Stout Irish Pub. That's where you're going to have to go, or come to one of my library talks, and I'll be wearing the bow ties then. So if you're in it for the bow ties, that's where you should go. All right, we have another couple of minutes. Can't believe I got this sorted out so quickly. I'm telling you, I've been practicing this, and it's just been a complete cluster. And I think what that is it speaks to the whole idea of if you have a good dress rehearsal, then your production is just gonna go belly up. So, and again, I'm just kind of moving in a bit because I believe on this screen, I think you are Facebook, and how annoying is that? Can you live with that? Hopefully you can, because I don't know. I can only manage so much. And somebody was asking me, because I've been posting a lot of YouTube shorts, asking me if I only had 2 or 3 shirts. And actually, I have 2 or 3 shirts, but I have 4 or 5 of them. So, tidbit of fascinating information about me while we're waiting to get started is that when I find something that fits well, I buy 2 or 3 of them. So no, I'm not wearing the same shirt every day. I'm wearing a different shirt, but the same type of shirt. And I guess that might come from years of wearing a uniform. I don't know. But there you have it. So let's see. And I hope everybody's got their nibblies and a little something to drink, because I think I'm always much funnier and much more entertaining after people have had a couple of drinks. I certainly dance better after I've had more drinks, but you'll find me much more entertaining after a couple of drinks. For myself, my beverage of choice this evening is water, because I get really, really dry. My mouth gets very, very dry. And I think if I had beer, that by the time we were finished, I would be absolutely hammered, and nobody needs that. So now it is 8 o'clock, sorry, 7 o'clock. I'm jumping ahead here. It's 7 o'clock. We're going to get started. Actually, it's vodka. We're going to get started. And just to give you a little idea of how I'm anticipating we're going to go this evening is I'm looking at no more than an hour because, first of all, it's a long time to sit in one spot. And also, I have a pint waiting for me at the pub. So that's my motivation to getting through this as clearly and succinctly and quickly but kindly as possible. So, first of all, I would like to thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. For those of you in the group who are writers, you know that one of the big things about being a writer is being able to get your work out to the world. Otherwise, you're just kind of typing into the abyss and you're wondering if you've just created the greatest make work project ever. But you are here and I thank you for it. And so I appreciate your time, and your time is important to me. So I'm going to try and get through things as clearly as possible. I would also really like to take this opportunity to thank my agent, Cindy Bullard from Birch Literary. Again, for those of you who are in the creative fields and you know that you're working at your stuff and you think it's really great and then you think it's really horrible, but you think it's really great, and you send it out and it's kind of like speed dating with zero response. At least it was for me. I sent out query after query after query and got nothing back. And then I have to thank, and I see you here, Karen, I have to thank Karen Gross, who said, no, what you need to do is really, really define your query letter. And I did, and lo and behold, Cindy Bullard sent me an email and said, hey, Des, do you want to have a phone conversation? And I had spoken to other agents before, but I really resonated with Cindy, works out really well, and thanks to her, we landed the deal with Level Best Books, who published, I have 2 series with them. The series I'm going to be talking about tonight, the Mike O'Shea series, and a Pint of Trouble series. So thank you, Level Best Books. Sean Riley Simmons from Level Best Books, who is the one who said, I love this, I love what you're doing, keep going. So to my agent, to my publisher, to you, thank you, and let's go. Okay, we are going to talk about this evening Blind Spot. Here's the book. Look at me. Vanna. Right, here's the book, Blind Spot. It is now available. Let me see if I can get it over there for you. There, we've all seen it. I'm not going to hold this up a lot because you're pretty smart and you've seen the cover. I know you can manage this. It is now live on Amazon, but only in Kindle. Okay. I don't know when the paperback is going to be available, but what you can do is go to my website, realdesmondryan.com, and sign up for my newsletter. And as soon as it's available, trust me, I will tell you. But for now, it's available in Kindle, so go and grab it. But if you are like me and you prefer a hard copy, I'll hold it up again because it's really fun to hold up your own book. If you prefer a actual copy, you're going to have to wait a little while. So, what is this book about? As you know, it is the 4th book in the 6th book Mike O'Shea series, which is the police procedural. It follows the struggles and triumphs of the main character, Mike O'Shea. And there's a couple things that came up about this book, the series. The first book, 1033 Assist PC, is the prequel. And it starts in 2005. And it's the backstory to basically the rest of the whole series, the story arc. Jump ahead to Death Before Coffee, which takes place in 2018. And then the next book is Man at the Door. And then the next book is Blind Spot, which takes place in 2019. But the idea was, when I set out this story arc, was to tell this story over basically sort of the 2005, jump ahead, so from 2018 to 2023. So there would be a book a year. And what would happen is you'd have lots of time to have character development and for them to grow and change and all this stuff. But in 2020, we had the pandemic and we had lockdown. That created a bit of a problem for all of us. But for the sake of this book, the problem that created was I did not know what to do if I was going to do the books like every year. What happens during that pandemic year? And if you're writing a police procedural, and it's a crime fiction, we're not talking a literary novel here, the expectation is to be a lot of action, a lot of hand-to-hand, a lot of interviews, stuff like that. Kate, I see you there. You can speak to this. Talking to your victims, your complainants, your witnesses, all this stuff. to do that in a pandemic environment, I think would make for a really, really dull book. And I didn't know how to do it. I wasn't sure how policing agencies were doing it. So what I had to do to get around that was make a decision to either suspend the book, finish, but I decided to squish the sort of whole thing into, in effect, 2 years. So 5 of the books have to take place from 2018, and the last one has to end by March of 2020, when they were locked down. Right? So some of the challenges are that the character development and the relationships between the characters couldn't quite develop the way I wanted them to. Hopefully I'm able to pull them off, but we shall see as we go along. Okay, so here we are. Thanks again for coming out. I'm going to now read you the back of the book. I printed it out because the back of the book is kind of small and I always get tired. And I was just, when I was doing this, does anybody here remember Mark Daly from City TV? Anybody? And he did, like, for those of you who are not familiar with him, he had this fantastic voice. He was the news reader. He was a very funny guy. And because this is my launch, I'm going to enjoy reading this, and hopefully you'll enjoy my reading it as well. So here's the back of the book blurb for, I'm going to hold the book up again. There we go. Oh, everybody sees it. The blind spot. Are you ready? And I haven't even had anything to drink yet. So imagine if I had decided to have a few runs, which I will afterwards. Early on Monday morning, a group of first responders are standing around a burned out car by the waterfront. They're waiting for the detectives to arrive to show them what they've found. A well-seasoned crime reporter also just happens to be in the area. Within minutes of arriving, Detective Mike O'Shea identifies the charred remains in the car as those of a woman he's known for years, while the reporter recognizes Mike's new partner as someone she's had numerous dealings with in the past. As Mike gets closer to uncovering the truth about the body in the car while trying to protect his new partner, the stakes get higher. Tempers flare and rumors fly. Something's got to give. Or is it already too late? In the fourth book of the Mike O'Shea series, Blind Spot brings the reader into a world of murder, deceit, and betrayal. No one is left unscathed in this searing police procedural that follows Detective Mike O'Shea, an inner city cop fighting an uphill battle against crime, corruption, and his own human frailties. Good God, if that doesn't make you want to buy the book, I don't know what will. There you go. Okay, so that's the premise of the book, okay? That's the basic crime and the little understory. Some major points occur in this book that I'll try not to give out any spoilers because then you'll say, well, thanks for that. Some major points, though, is Ron Roberts, Mike's partner, retires. And originally, when I started this series, I hadn't intended for that to happen because I hadn't really thought that much about it. But I had to make way for a new character. And the new character is Carla Hagenauer. And if you read Men at the Door, you will recall Carla as Carl Hagenauer, the foot patrol sergeant. And at the end of Men at the Door, Carl leaves, and it's very explicit that he has gone, and he's gone away to have a gender affirmation surgery. So that's where we leave it, and Mike is going to be Carla's partner. So I had to get rid of Ron. Sorry, okay. Don't tell anybody. I am thinking, I'm actually working on another little series on the side of Ron as a retired detective. Remember Curmudgeon Ron, who kind of notices that they're not doing police work properly, and ends up getting involved in a lot of things, but don't tell anybody because I haven't really got it developed yet. Oh, shh, our secret. Anyway, Ron retires and Carla steps in. Now, Carla is a transgendered woman, and it's very, very interesting to develop that character, to look at women's issues in policing from a different perspective, from looking at her relationship with her family, her relationship with her colleagues, her relationship with the outside world. And without this book being about her, because it's not, I try and touch on those a little bit. There's a couple of lines in there that Carla makes reference to that I have a little bit of inside knowledge about, where what happens is that the unit commander, who some of you may recognize, we won't mention anybody's names here, but if you are here, I'm sure you recognize yourself. Basically, he says, you know what, we've looked after you, we're going to make sure everything works out okay. And the directive from the chief down is that Carla will not have any problems. And one of the comments that the chief makes, the chief of police makes, that Carla references, is that the chief says to Carla, and in this case it's in a phone call to her, that this is the first for this police service. And her response is, this is a first for me too. And just as a little insider thing, I happen to know that conversation actually occurred. So we're getting so many inside tidbits here. Anyway, so we're introducing Carla, and that's really fun. But also what's happening is that there's a reappearance, and you remember from 1033 Assist PC, when Mike's partner, his first partner, gets shot. And if that's a spoiler alert for you, go back and read the first book. But his partner gets shot. They identify the shooter as Malcolm Oakes. And this is in 2005. And he has a very distinctive scarring, the Glasgow smile. And yet somehow he has escaped, you know, all of the law enforcement eyes of the world. And Mike's belief is that it's because there's something going on with this juvenile prostitution ring and government and something. And of course, everyone thinks that Mike is a Mr. Conspiracy, woo-woo kind of weirdo guy. But in Blind Spot, Malcolm reappears in a major way. And so that's all I'm going to say about that, because in the next two books I have to wrap up this story arc. But that's what's going to happen there. What else has to happen? I think that's all I can really share with you now. Of course, Mike's mother appears in this book as well, but in a really, really small spot. And for those of you who remember, in 1033 Assist PC, Mary Margaret, I put her in just because that was a really heavy book and I needed a little bit of levity. And then in the next book, Death Before Coffee, she got a little bit bigger. And then by Man at the Door, she was bursting out at the seams. And she was also a reader favorite. And so a few people suggested that I spin her off into her own series. And Anne of Dark and Stormy Book Club podcast, who's just recently passed away, huge supporter, wonderful podcast, by the way. She said, Desmond, you have got to give her her own series. And that's what Point of Trouble is about. I know that's not what we're talking about here. We are talking about this book. Yes, this is the book. I feel like I need to show this book. Maybe I get like 2 cents every time I show it. I don't know. But just to let you know, she features in here a little bit as well. So what else do we want to talk about? I'm going to give you a little reading from the book. And I printed it out because, as I said, the print seems small when your eyes are older. So here we go. Mike waited a few minutes before grabbing his coat and ducking out into the same hallway. Instead of turning right, as Ron had, he turned left to the glass doors that led to the back parking lot, his cell phone in his pocket. Being close to shift change, the tiny lot was quickly filled up with marked scout cars driven by road-tired uniformed officers, many of whom acknowledged Mike with a nod or short comment. Mike nodded back as he hurried into the alleyway that led to Dundas Street, trying not to slip on the overflow trash from the dumpsters or step in the potholes full of almost frozen water. And for any of you who remember the old 11, just saying. Somebody said I should call this true crime, based on a true crime. But I digress. Once out of the alleyway, Mike made a right and sat on a bench that happened to be in front of a halfway house for violent sex offenders. You can't get this. If the public only knew, he thought, glancing down the street at the community center just over the hill, and then to the public school across the street from it. If the public only knew. He pulled the cell phone out of his pocket. Forensics, Detective Stewart speaking. How may I help you? Just the person I want to talk to. I need a favor, Amy, Mike said, as a city bus stopped in front of him, and two men got off. He watched them walk up the stairs to the halfway house. Hey, Mikey, for you, anything, she said, her already chipper voice picking up even more. I need you to go to an address for me and pull some prints from a room, he said, squinting his eyes as he considered whether or not a headache was coming on. Sorry, buddy, no can do. I'm on light duties. Broke my wrist last week, so I'm on the desk. Ouch. I hope you at least broke it on duty, he asked, rubbing the back of his neck. Nah, I was playing baseball. At your age? I seem to recall that you've got a few years on me, don't you, Mike? Wouldn't you be looking for a permanent desk job now? Point taken. Sorry. Smart ass. But I can get someone else to do the prints. Give me the occurrence number. I don't have one, he said, looking across the street at the old toothless woman flopped out in front of the filthy donut shop, her hand outstretched as a greasy middle-aged man brushed by her and went inside. Come on, Mikey, you know we can't. Yeah, forget it. Sorry. I hope your wrist heals, Mike said, abruptly clicking the phone off. Hey, detective, the toothless woman gummed as Mike stood up. Keeping well, Dolores? Called back. Got any change? She called back. Sorry, he said, scraping something off the bottom of his shoe as he walked back into the alleyway that led to the back doors. Asshole, she shouted at him. He did not want to imagine the amount of spittle that would have spewed out of her mouth with that one word. What a fucking life. Now, if that doesn't make you want to run out and buy the book, I don't know what will. Now, I like that scene a lot. And again, if you know, you know. I need not say anymore. And if you don't know, trust me, these are the characters that we ran into all the time. And interestingly, now I think I see those same people. I know I don't, because that was like 20 years ago and they are either long gone or as old as I am, but they're still kind of there. So that's a little bit of the flavor of the book. As you can see, Mike's getting a little rogue there, trying to kind of get around the system a bit. And I think you will enjoy it. I had a lot of fun writing it, and I think you'll like it. So next, what I would like to do is talk to you a little bit about, well, like I said, you can get it on Amazon. Right now, it's only available on Kindle. Sign up to my newsletter, go to my website, realdesmondryan.com. This thing flashes up, you sign up, and I'll send you updates. So as soon as it's available in paperback, I will let you know. The other thing I would suggest, because I love the library, and I know that the Toronto Library has 1033 Assist BC, they have Death Before Coffee, they have Man at the Door, and they will be getting in Blind Spot as soon as it becomes available. But if where you are, they don't have these books, go speak to the librarian, they'll order them for you, and then you can sign them as many times as you want for free. All right, and likewise, I think Barnes and Nobles is going to be carrying it. Indigo, I hope, will be carrying it. But if you are in your bookstore and they are not, go speak to the manager, the bookstore owner. They can buy the book through Level Best, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to sell them to you. And now I'm going to stop my sales pitch because nobody likes to be sold stuff all the time. I have been asked, I've asked you to send me some questions, and now I'm going to answer them, but I'm just going to have a little sip of water. What is everybody drinking, by the way? I can kind of see some comments. Please tell me you're drinking something, because I feel really badly if you weren't. Kate, you got to be drinking some Pinot. Tell me you are. Come on. Okay, so couple of questions, some questions that came in. First one was, when is the book coming out in audio? Let me tell you, I would love that. Oh, sorry, I'm just watching. Kate, you've had Prosecco. Oh my goodness. Oh, Prosecco and popcorn goes very well together, by the way. A perfect pairing. So just keep that in mind. Oh, no, you're killing me. Like I said, there's a pint waiting for me. So focus. When is the book coming out in audio? I am not in charge of that. That is up to my agent, Cindy Bullard at Birch Literary. Trust me, as soon as, Pat, I see you got some red wine going there, killing me. As soon as Cindy gets that organized, trust me, I will be all over that like stink. I love audiobooks, mostly because I'm a really slow reader. So for my writer friends out there who say, you know, could you read my book? And I get back to them several months later, it's not because I couldn't be bothered. It's because I'm pretty much a hooked on phonics reader. So audiobooks are great. And if you know anybody who's got connections in the audiobook world, by all means, shoot them my name. I'll take it. It'll be great. Another question came in, and this was from my good friend Melody Campbell, who is here. And Melody has been called the funniest woman in Canada. I think I'm pretty funny, but nobody's ever called me the funniest man. So, like, I don't know how you did it, Mel, and you are pretty funny. She's quite funny. Melody has asked, how close is Mike to the real you? Well, not really. Well, yes and no. I mean, you don't get to be this pretty by getting your head bashed in as often as he does. And I'm not nearly as tactile and all that sort of stuff. He's kind of my ego ideal, I guess. But also, and this feeds into another question that was asked, as the series went on, he kind of evolves, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. But wait, there's more. He's also, I don't want to say a literary device, but in a book, I think every character has a role. And if you look at children's books, it's pretty straightforward. You got the good guy, the bad guy, the evil guy, the wonderful all. Like, just think like the Seven Dwarfs, right? There's all your characters that you need for your book. And Mike has to be a certain role. Right? And that's why when Ron Roberts retires, he's sort of the voice of reason, the curmudgeonly one, the one that says, like, wait a minute, what do we think about this? When he retires, Carla is not that character. She has a lot of other things going on. Mike kind of slides a little bit more into that role. So I would say really all of the characters are a little bit of me. Except maybe Teasy. She's just kind of annoying. And I'm not annoying. Although I can name a few people who would say otherwise. But he's a little bit like me, but his personal stuff is a little bit like me, but I think he's a lot braver than I am. Not that I'm not really brave. but not as brave as he is. And certainly I'm not as resilient, and I'm a lot more pain resistant than he is. Another question that was asked is, have any of my former colleagues assumed that he was them, or that they were in the book? The only colleague that truly recognized them in the book, and Pete, I know you know who I'm talking about, and she knows who I'm talking about, because in, I think it's in the Level Best edition of Man at the Door, I tell her distinctly that I owe her a pair of shoes in the dedication. And now, Kate, you know exactly who I'm talking about as well. But interestingly, I think the Ron Roberts character I thought was pretty clearly one of the people I had worked with, and then I found out that he was actually very similar to a lot of other people. So I don't know if I answered that question or not. Megan Wilson, who, if you are buying or selling real estate in the GTA, she is your go-to person. She said, she asked, how do you find Mike is growing and changing since you first developed him as a character? And, you know, for any of you who have written a series, you know that you start with, this is where your characters are going to go, and then they start to kind of take on a life of their own. And I don't want to get too woo-woo about it, but if you try to hold them back, if you try and kind of say, no, this is what you're going to do, they won't. And even though you're writing them and everything, it doesn't ring true, it doesn't make sense, it doesn't work, so they just kind of make their own little way. And one of the things that was kind of, you know, as Mike is going on, he's getting a little crustier, he's getting a little more bitter, and I didn't want him to be a bitter character. And in the beginning of Blind Spot, once again, there you go. What is it? Product placement? That's what that is, little product placement. In the beginning of Blind Spot, we discover, because as you know, Mike has had a lot of head injuries and significant injuries, and over the course of time, he has been prescribed prescription drugs. And in the beginning of Blind Spot, we discover that he's got a little bit of an Oxycontin issue. And I didn't intend for that to happen, but that's kind of what happened. And I'll leave it. I'll leave it for you to discover what happens with that. And in part, not only do the characters develop, but as a writer you develop, and not, you know, just in your writing skills, but you learn more things. You develop new interests and stuff like that. And of course, one of the, I recently was reading this fantastic book, and it was on Netflix, about the family that developed Oxycontin and how it affected real life people. And I remember I had an on-duty car accident, and I was off for about a year and a half. And I was prescribed Oxycontin at the time. And this would have been back in the 90s, late 90s. And that's how I discovered that I by the grace of God, whatever, I don't have an addictive personality. I don't know what happened, but I can see how easily that could happen. So that's kind of what that happened. And has he taken you in unexpected directions? Again, as you know, when you're writing, you know, we've talked about this before. If you've come to the Brews and Clues or any of my library talks, there's the pantsers and the plotters. And the plotters are the people who sort of write out sort of chapter by chapter how things are going to go. The pantsers are the ones that just sit and start. I've done it both ways. Pantsing is a lot more fun, but I find then I have to go back and do a lot of editing, and I don't really like to do that. But in the plotting, as I said, the character kind of goes off, and sometimes you can pull them back, and sometimes you can't. And having Mike with this oxy issue, it's not quite an addiction. It's not a physical addiction, but it is a psychological addiction. That was something I didn't see coming. And of course, because he's the hero, and I want to keep him as a hero as opposed to sort of an anti-hero, he's got to be somehow pulled back from that cliff. What else? Surprising, interesting things I've learned when researching the book. Well, again, my hat goes off to all of the crime fiction writers out there who do not have law and or policing backgrounds, um, because there's a whole lot to it. And man, oh man, you must research to death. Um, I'm very fortunate and very lazy in that I chose to write about what I know, the procedures and things like that. Um, Writing about Carla was not as difficult as one might think. I have some pretty good in-house counsel, you may say. And again, at the end of the day, and I hope it comes through in my books, is the humanity. You know, that we all want to be treated well. We all want to be respected. We all want to be treated with dignity. You know, like the little excerpt I wrote about, you know, Dolores, and she's toothless and she's begging by this filthy place. And, you know, all she wants is a little bit of change. That's all she wants. You know, she didn't choose to be there. And I hope that comes through in the characters. And that's one of the things I really like about writing crime fiction, because generally speaking, crime fiction is, I think, one of the places where you can talk about social issues without labeling your book, right? And saying this is what it's about. You can delve into, you know, poverty. You can delve into addiction. You can delve into like I talk a lot about women in policing through the Amanda Black character. Now I have an opportunity to talk about trans people, non-binary people. You may have picked up that Mike's nephew, Paulie, is a gay man. He doesn't figure strongly, but he is there. Right? And at no point do I say, you know, this book is an LGBTQ2+ book, or this is a feminist book, or, you know, whatever. But that's one of the things I love about writing in crime fiction. And in terms of learning new things, like turns of phrases, and really, I think for me the feedback is when readers read it, to see what they get out of it. Because again, as you know, for those of you who write, you sit here for hours and hours and hours. And I think, no, it was you that said a book from sort of idea to this product placement is about 1,000 hours. And that's a long time on a spec project. And by spec project, I mean, there's nothing saying it's going to sell. Anybody's going to buy it, right? I'm lucky that I have a contract, so at least I know it will get published. It may never sell. I know, like you're going to buy pizza, that's great. No, but you know what I mean? And that's a long, long time. So the feedback from the readers is really, really important. So, which brings me to something. If you do end up getting the book, if you end up getting it on Amazon, even if you don't, if you wouldn't mind going back to Amazon and doing a review, because apparently those matter. If you hate the book, don't say anything. One of the things I find funny is people will give you a 5-star review and say nothing. People will give you a 1-star review and do this 12-page dissertation. If you don't like the book, don't like it. It's okay. We don't care. It's good. But if you do like the book, please put up a review, throw some stars up there. That would be great. The next question I got, I need to have a drink. Okay, everybody, it's drink break time, which when we're doing brews and clues is so much more fun because I've got this endless supply of pints coming at me. All right, what's next? Well, as you know, once one book is out, there's another book coming. And the next book in the series, I don't have a title for it, and maybe you can kind of help me out, think about it. Basically what happens is there's 2 bodies. One is dead and one is nearly dead. And all I keep thinking is some Monty Python sketch going on here. I also think about, and I don't know if anybody of my policing friends who are on here have ever done this, where you go to a scene and you know the person is going to die imminently, and you call homicide, and you say they're not dead yet, and homicide says, call us back when they're dead. And so you wait like 2 minutes and call them back. But anyway, so the book has two bodies. They are found at the same scene. One is dead, one is almost dead. And I feel like I'm playing charades. What would you call that? First syllable. So if you can come up with a great title, that would be wonderful. Because right now I got nothing. I was thinking dead and alive, and then I just keep thinking the hair bands from the 80s, and it's a little touchy subject with me now. But yeah, I don't know. So that's what's coming up. I think I alluded to the book that's in the works about Ron as the retired curmudgeon. Could you imagine, my policing friends, well, you can, because we've all experienced that. The person in the division who's the eyes and ears of the neighborhood, does not get involved in any of the community policing committees or anything like that, but tells everybody how to do their job. Well, Ron's going to I think he might kind of be that person, but being the Ron Roberts character, he's not going to tell them how to do the job. He's going to do it. So I think that might be a little bit fun. David, that's a good idea. Almost Dead. Does that resonate as a title, unless it's already taken? Let's see. Yeah. So I kind of have that in the works. I've also got a whole other book, just because, why not? No, I need to tell you this story because it feeds into, usually on Tuesday nights, this is my pub night. So just so you know, you are so important to me, and I feel the love coming back that I'm foregoing part of my pub night to talk here now. No, but about a year ago, the bartender and I were talking, as one does at the pub, and Michael said that he was going on this cruise and he was doing this countdown. And I said, well, what if I did a chapter a week before I came to the pub, I start a whole new book, and he and I and the people sitting at the pub figured out, sort of how it would go and what the main premise would be. And I said, well, every night, every week before I come to the pub, I'll write a chapter and I'll send it to you, whether you read it or not, doesn't matter, just keeps me on task. And by the time you go for your cruise, my book will almost be done. And the time will pass whether I write it or not. And he said, great. And I said, great. And every week I've been writing these chapters. And he's gone on his cruise, he's back. And I think I have 2 chapters left of this particular book. So we're gonna see if that works. Because I wrote it 1 chapter a week, I've got a lot of continuity to look at. It's a completely different book. It's set in a small town just north of London, England in 1985. Reason being is that was a really great time for me. And then when I started researching, speaking of researching books now, discovered that in London, England, that wasn't such a great time. It was sort of the Thatcher era. It was also for the world, the AIDS crisis was just starting up. There was the Berlin Wall was just starting to come down. So it ended up kind of being a little more of a spy thriller thing. But anyway, that's also on the go. And I can just hear, again, this is why I'm not in sales. Because someone would be saying, Daz, you're here to sell Blind Spot. I'm not here to sell anything. I'm just here to tell you about my books. And I really, really appreciate that you came out. And I'm seeing, I see dead people. I don't know, Kate. I'm thinking, not quite sure. But funny story. Of course, there's always a funny story when there's something to do with death and you're talking to cops. Every division has what we call a Dr. Death. And that is the one officer on the platoon, for reasons that defy logic, who always gets the call to go to the sudden death calls. Now, I worked in a lot of divisions when I was with Toronto Police, and for a short period of time, I worked in an area known as the Country Club. It's a lovely little area of Toronto, York Mills and Don Mills, and I was Dr. Death. Luckily, being Dr. Death there was not so bad, because basically what happened was, Mom woke up dad didn't, as opposed to Dr. Death. In some other divisions where death is by bad smell, and that's a whole other story, and we don't need to go there. And it got to the point where I was Dr. Death. No matter what patrol area I was assigned to, I would get that call. On an average 7-day shift, I would get 3 to 4 sudden death calls. And it got to the point where I see dead people. So anyway, I've digressed yet again. All right. I know we talked about it now, but I'm not going to drag this on. This has been really fun. Yeah, almost dead. It might work. Yeah, we looked at that. If you have any ideas for my title, if you'd like to do my work for me, that'd be great. If you have any ideas for my next title in the Mike series, that would be great. As I said, right now, Blind Spot is only available as an ebook on Kindle. If you are like me and you like this, things you can hold, you're going to have to wait. I don't know when it's going to be available, but if you want to get on my mailing list, I can let you know. You can get on my mailing list by going to my website, realdesmondryan.com, and sign up. I won't spam you because nobody likes spam. Murder for Dr. Death. Oh, that could be good now. I like that one. And I'm seeing that my older son has joined. See, I got all 3 things going. I thought I was going to have to call him. He's my techno guy, but I got Facebook, I've got YouTube, I've got Insta going. I feel pretty great. Okay, so last thing I'm going to do is when I checked on YouTube Shorts at about 6:30, there were about 530 people who were wondering whether or not I was going to be wearing pants to this. And I didn't want to let you know too soon because then I know you'd all just go home. So just so this is actually the big reveal. This, meh, you've seen it. I've sent it to you, right? And you're going to have it in your house pretty soon because you're going to be buying it. You're going to be reading it. It's going to be on your night table. You're going to give it to your friends, your family. And then, it's probably going to end up, as, that Netflix thing. Yes. Oh, somebody asked, there's talk about Netflix. Well, you never know. I will not say no if I get a phone call. I was just listening to something about Oprah, her book club, and she's doing her this is Oprah, and I love this. If anybody knows Oprah, I would be more than happy to talk about my book with her, or we could write a book together. I've heard she's done that, and I'd let her write on my coattails. It'd be okay for now. Okay, so big reveal whether or not I'm wearing pants, and then we will say goodnight. And I thank you so much for coming out. And I don't mean to disappoint you too much, but I'm wearing pants. I'm wearing pants. So thank you for coming out. I really appreciate it. Thanks for making this so great. And if you are in the Toronto area, I will be doing a live book launch in person, not here in my house, although that would be pretty fun. But the book launch is going to be at Stout Irish Pub. That's where we had the Brews and Clues. And for those of you who didn't make it, that's okay. We're starting again in September. It is at 221 Carleton Street, which is at Carleton just at Parliament. And it is going to be on Thursday, the 13th of June at 6:30 p.m. Okay, so what that means is instead of, if you're downtown at work or whatever, just no, don't go home, don't get comfy, don't put on your comfy pants, just come right down to Carleton and Parliament and come into Stout at 6:30, the 13th of June on Thursday for an in-person. And I hope to see you there. Thank you so much for being here, and good night. And I am going to go and have that pint now at the pub. Kate, what do you mean you're going to Scotland? Come on. Well, we'll have to do a live in Scotland sometime. Okay, thank you so much, and I will try and shut you down with as much dignity as I possibly can. And thank you. Good night, everybody. Sláinte. Good night.